Hey, everybody. If you want the full uncensored episode, be sure to click the link below to join the Fight Club on Patreon. And don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe.
Right here in Joe Louis Arena. Whoa, and Coxe knocks Joey down with that right hand.
I had fought him in the minors. Me and him broke into pro hockey at the same time.
Yep.
I had fought him. He was playing for Adirondack when I was in Freddie, and me and him got into a fight. And at the end of the fight, I'm sitting in the penalty box, and they bring me my helmet, and my helmet's in two pieces, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, this guy hits pretty goddamn hard.
Thank God you didn't have the fucking visor on then.
Yeah, no kidding.
That'll be a suspension. That'll be a fine. Nyland going ballistic. He's a freaking madman.
I'm Chris Nyland, and this is the Raw Knuckles Podcast. Greg Coxe, awesome that you took the time to join me today on the Raw Knuckles Podcast. Really appreciate it. God, I've had so many guys, different guys, a lot of guys who certainly were in the fight game in the NHL. And I just love kind of picking guys' brains about how they got to that point in their career. But we'll get there. You grew up, you're born in California, then you moved to Arizona, then you go back to California. How does a kid from California get into the game of ice hockey? Because Gretzky hadn't got there yet. And yeah, the Kings were there. They were the only team in California for a time. And then all of a sudden, hockey starts to become popular in California. How'd that start for you, especially back in the 70s, 60, you were born in 64, 60s and 70s. How's that happen?
Well, me and my brothers, we were the first ones in our family to be brought up in the States. My dad, everybody on my dad's side is all from Ontario. Okay. So my dad's played hockey his entire life. And when my grandpa decided he was moving the family from Ontario to California, my dad was the oldest sibling, so he drove down there to help him get there. He was planning on going back. He had actually had a tryout with the Rangers. And then when he got to California, my grandpa was trying to start his own plumbing business, and so my dad stuck around and had us. And as soon as we were old enough to walk, he got us on skates, and it was just something I could never have enough of it. That's all I wanted to do was play hockey.
Well, you grew up in Chula Vista. You're native of Chula Vista, California. Now, when I think, okay, your dad got you on skates, where the hell was the rink?
Because I'll tell you what.
Right? I live up in Quebec now. There's a rink around the corner from me. There's a rink across the lake from me. There's a rink everywhere. Where the hell were the rinks in California?
I'll tell you what, it was a lot of driving. I mean, I thank my mom and dad for taking me, because, I mean, my dad was on behind the wheel driving me and my other two brothers everywhere in Southern California, because it was, there were so few rinks, and it was hard. And, but my dad knew that we loved to play the game, and he says, hey, I'll take you wherever you want to go. So back then you could play on two teams. So I just got to play a lot of hockey. And when I was 15, I moved to Washington to play a year of midgets there. And then 2 years later, at 17, I moved to Canada and started playing juniors.
Yeah, you played in Alberta, right? In Alberta Junior Hockey League, right? For
the
Alberta Saints.
Yeah.
St. Albert Saints, right?
Yeah.
So you leave still to California. How many kids in the family? Your two brothers? How many?
No, I've actually got three brothers and a sister.
Okay.
Unfortunately, one of my younger brothers we lost quite a few years ago in a car accident back when I was still playing. So now I got two brothers and a sister.
Okay, so you took to the game of hockey. You end up going up to Canada, St. Albert's. What was that like? I mean, you moved, right? You went California. You lived in Arizona for a bit. You moved back to California. As a 17-year-old kid, taking off from home, moving in with a family that you really don't know yet. What was that like for you as a young kid?
Well, to tell you the truth, it was really exciting because I always wanted to go back and play in Canada just because that's where my roots came from on my dad's side. And I was really excited about it. I mean, I knew I was jumping into something that I had no idea what I was going to be doing. I didn't know much about the league or anything like that. But again, all I wanted to do was just play hockey, and I try my best to try and make it to the NHL. And my dad says the best way to do that is head up north and start playing with those Canadians. I mean, you're not going to make it to the NHL playing here in Los Angeles, when, at that time of our lives, I mean, nobody was scouting anybody in Southern California.
Yeah.
I mean, now there's a lot of kids coming out of California, but not when I was playing, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's why, God, it really, it's an awesome story because, I look at it like Chelios. He wasn't born in California. Chelly was born in Chicago, but they moved to California when he was really young. And then, he starts hockey there. Then he ventures off up to Canada like you did to play. And I often think, you were drafted, you were born in 64. I was born 58, and six years difference. And your draft year, 82, was the second year, I believe. Yeah, the second year of the 18-year-old draft. My year, in 1980, I was drafted, was the last year of the 20-year-old draft. So you get drafted at 18. You go to St. Albert's, and then you end up you get drafted into the O, right? Ontario Hockey League with Belleville?
The way that happened was being an American, I could play in any league that I wanted to.
Yep.
And when I was in St. Albert, the Winnipeg, I think they were called the Winnipeg Warriors, something like that back then. They flew me into town, showed me, we'd like you to play for us next year. But
and you
after
were like, Winnipeg? I don't think so. No.
Well, and they flew me out there, and I'm like, man, this is not much here. But after I got drafted, my coach was Mark Messier's father, so he kind of had some connections. And he's the one who got me the job out in Belleville in the Ontario League. Because I had signed something with Winnipeg saying, yeah, sure, I'll come play here. But then when I had the opportunity to go to Ontario, I wanted to be back where my dad grew up, and so that's the reason I made that choice, is go out and play in Belleville.
So you go to Belleville, and you had some good seasons there, obviously. 64 games that first year, 41 points, 102 PIMs. So you open some eyes, and you end up getting drafted in the fourth. Was it the fourth round you were drafted? 66 overall.
Yeah, I actually got drafted out of St. Albert, not when I played in the Ontario.
Oh, so it was out of St. Albert. Wow. Yeah.
When I moved up there, I still had one more year of school, so I went to grade 12 there, and I got drafted out of there, and then that's when I went out to Ontario.
You ripped it up in St. Albert's too with 212 PIMs, but you had 65 points in 51 games, so you showed you could play the game. So you're drafted by the Red Wings, and you never play a freaking game. What's that? You never even got to go to camp with them. What happened there?
I went to one camp. They brought me in the year I was drafted, and the way that I understand it, and again, this is a long time ago, but the way I understand it is when I got drafted in June, well, the team was bought after that by a new owner, and they brought in all these people. I mean, these people didn't even know who I was. I'm some,
was that
18-year-old.
Was that Itlich who bought it?
Yeah.
At the time. Okay, yeah.
He bought it and brought in all new staff. And I'm a 17-year-old kid coming out of Tier 2 in Alberta. mean, they brought me to one camp and they said, we think you need to get big, or you need to get stronger and faster. And I'm like, hey, I agree. I mean, I played 1 year at Tier 2. I know I'm not ready for the NHL right now, but he says, we'll keep an eye on you. And we hear you're going to play in the Ontario League, so that's great. You're going to be close to us. And so I'm like, hey, yeah, great. I mean, I appreciate the opportunity. And they says, you know, come back next year. And says, okay, great. And so the whole year goes, and only one time we had a game in Windsor, and I'm skating around the warm-up, and one of their head scouts comes up to the glass and, hey, Coxe, I'm here to watch you play. And so I'm really excited, you know, and we end up winning the game. I get a goal. I beat the piss out of somebody on the other team. And I'm just walking on clouds, you know, and I go into the dressing room, get showered, and the boys say, hey, we got your equipment. Go out there and go see him. And I go out there, and the guy's nowhere to be seen. And I was told that he took, I think his name was Claude Loisel. He was drafted the year before I was to Vancouver. To Detroit. Yeah. And apparently he took him out for dinner. I should have grabbed him and beat him up. So that was the last time that I had ever heard from him. When by the time training camp was coming around, I didn't hear from him all summer long, nothing. They never called me. They didn't even say to me, you know what, it's just not going to work out. And I would have accepted that, you know. But they didn't even call me or nothing. And so I played 2 years in Belleville, and I thought my career was over. And I went over to my coach's house, Larry Mavety.
Because you had a great, 2 years there. You had an awesome 2 years. Like, you were a point-a-game guy in your second year. They had 45 games. I mean, come on. 17 goals, 28 assists. So you showed you could play the game. And I know playing against you, and I know watching you could play the game. But so what happens after Belleville, and how do you get this shot to go to Vancouver?
My coach, Larry Mavety, I went over to his house. I was on my way back home to California. I was going to be leaving in a couple of days. And I just want to say thank you for the last 2 years. I mean, I enjoyed playing for him. He treated me great. The talent treated me great. And I just told him, I just want to say thank you. He says, what are you going to do? I says, well, my dad's in the construction business, so I'm moving back to California to join the family in the construction business. And he says, how would you like to try out in Vancouver? I says, I would love one. So,
close to home. Close to home. It's on that coast. Thank you.
And that's when Bill LaForge, you remember Bill LaForge?
Yeah, Bill LaForge.
Well, that was his only year there. And he called me up and said, I might ask you to do this. I says, Mr. LaForge, I'll do whatever you want. I just want to play in the National Hockey League.
When he said he might ask you to do this, what do you mean by that?
Well, he said I might actually ask you to jump into their bench and grab a hold of somebody. So I'll do whatever you want. I just want to play.
Well, he had that reputation, right? Where did he coach June? Didn't he coach June? He had crazy. Was he in New West, LaForge?
He was. I think he coached in the Western League and in the Ontario League also. I think he coached in both those leagues. Yeah, and he had
He had tough teams.
Crazy teams. Yeah,
right. Are you ready to take your love for hockey to the next level? Join the Fight Club Raw Knuckles exclusive Patreon to unlock amazing perks like ad-free episodes, bonus interviews, and even a chance to win a game day experience with me in the Habs Cave. Don't miss out on this ultimate hockey experience. So you're going to get a shot in Van. And how's that come about? So he's there. He send you tickets. They come to camp. What's the deal?
Yep. He says, we're not going to sign you to a contract. We're just giving you a tryout. And I says, that's all I'm asking for. So just trained all summer long. And when I get to camp, our first day of camp, when we have the meetings with the brass and all that, everybody all in that one room, and he says, I want no fighting in training camp. And I'm like, really? So, like, okay, I mean, that's what you want. Then He says, I don't want guys fighting each other that one guy might break the other guy's nose and then might have to room together. I don't want that. He says, you'll have plenty of time. And he's telling the whole room this. Well, you'll have plenty of time to show me if you can fight or not. So I says, okay, no problem. So I just went out there and played hockey. I ended up getting into a fight, but only because do you remember Michel Petit?
Oh, yeah. And Michel was no pushover. Michel Petit was a tough kid.
He was a first-round draft pick to Vancouver a couple years before I got there. And he was trying to play the role with me. I'm just some stupid rookie.
Yeah.
And so, so I just speared him and said, listen, I'm not allowed to fight you. Stop doing this or I'm going to continue spearing you. And LaForge stands up in the stands and he starts screaming, go ahead. And I'm like, beautiful.
Thank you for giving me the get-go. Yeah.
Yeah, so, and I'd been training all summer. I was practicing all my fighting and everything I could do because I knew I had to prove myself. So I kind of laid a bit of a beating on him. And then when it came to the two rookie games against LA, things just went really well for me.
All right, so now Michel Petit, I played with him in New York, and boy, I seen one game and I felt bad for him. Guys were the shit they were saying to him in Edmonton. We were playing Edmonton, and the shit they were saying to him was it was terrible. I won't even repeat it on here, but Michel, he ended up fighting I don't know who, maybe McClellan or someone, but okay, he surprised me how tough he was. Like, he's a big, strong kid. He didn't look for it, but boy, I was like, he opened my eyes. I'm like, holy shit, Michel, where the hell has that been? He got in the fight. I forget who it was with, but he did well. So it's funny. So many things when you talk to fighters, we have in common. I went to camp without a contract like you. I went to camp in Montreal here, my first camp, and I had no contract. And I ended up with like a 5-game tryout. You know what they were going to give me for the 5-game tryout in the American Hockey League? And I didn't fight at all in training camp because, I wanted to – my goal was to be Bobby Orr. Like, I want to be Bobby Orr, right? And I got to camp in Montreal, and I quickly learned I wasn't Bobby Orr. I wasn't even going to become Bobby Orr. But I wanted to be a player, right? I wanted to play the game. I didn't come in thinking, okay, I'm going to be a fighter. No one came to me like Bill LaForge came to you and said, listen, I'll give you a shot. You might have to fight. No one said that to me. Now, I grew up watching the Bruins, all that stuff, and I loved that aggressive nature of the game, and I played it that way. But growing up in the States, there was no fighting in hockey. I didn't fight in hockey. I had one fight in college hockey. I got suspended. But anyway, you go there, no contract. You get through that camp, and how do you get signed by the Canucks?
Well, they made all their cuts and everything. I was still living at the hotel. And the day before our first game, the guys on the team were all asking me, so have they signed you yet? Have they signed you yet? And I said, I haven't heard anything. I don't know what's going on. I'm just going back to my hotel. And I got a call from the GM that night telling me, I need you to come into my office tomorrow morning before practice. Didn't tell me why or nothing, so I figured I was getting a plane ticket home and walked in, and him and Bill LaForge were sitting there, and they said, we'd like to sign you to a contract. Do you have an agent that you would want to call? I said, give me the pin.
Did you have an agent?
Nope.
I didn't either. No agent.
I said, give me the pin. And they says, well, don't you want to talk to somebody? I said, I don't need to talk to anybody. Give me the pin before you change your mind. I'll sign it right now. Well, don't you want to look it over? I'll sign it right now. I don't care what it says.
Can I ask, what was your first contract? Did you have a two-way?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Actually, it was 3-way. I had, if I played in the NHL, if I played in the American League, if I was sent back to juniors, I had three different ways of where it was going, and it was only a 1-and-1 contract, so it was just a 2-year deal. And I just said, hey, listen, just let me sign it
What
right
was the
now.
NHL number?
70.
Okay.
I got 70,000 for the NHL. I had 20. I think it was 25 in the American League. And if I went back to juniors, I think I was getting like 15, something like that.
So prices were going up. I got a 5-game tryout. Salaries were going up. My 5-game tryout was for $250 a game. After my first game, like they played 3 games in Halifax. I didn't play. Our first game was in Maine. And it was Philly's farm team. And who I end up fighting is Glenn Cochran. And I cut him. And I cut him good. The next day, Bert Templeton, who was the coach, calls me. He says, hey, and I got kicked out of the game, right? So I'm like, shit. He called me next morning. He said, hey, Chris, come down the room. I got to talk to you. Here's my room number. So I'm there. Fuck. I didn't know nothing in pro hockey, how it works, none of that. I think I'm going to get fucking sent down because I got kicked out of the game. They're going to fucking send me a Flint. So I'm shit. So I go down the room and he says, you have an agent. I said, no, why? He said, because Montreal wants to sign your contract. I couldn't believe it, right? One fight, and I did well, and they wanted to sign me. So fine, they signed me. You got 70, I got 60. So that was 1980. 79. I got 60 up and 18.5 down in the American League. And then and if I went to Flint, I think I was getting like 12,000 or something. Imagine.
Right.
Like it's insane. It's insane, right? Guys spend 12,000 a night on rookie dinner, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, and if I got sent to Flint, I was going to make 12 G's Canadian living in Flint. But God, so that in Canucks, when you get to the Canucks, I don't know if they were all there. Stan Smear was there for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Was God Butcher there, right?
Oh, Strangler was there, yeah.
Strangler. Who the hell else? You guys had a squad, right?
Well, back then, with some of our older guys, we had like Johnny Garrett, Peter McNabb, Doug Hallward.
But I was saying that, and not tough guys, but you had a tough team out there, right?
Well, yeah, you know who our toughest guy was Ronnie DeLorme.
Ron DeLorme, that's right.
Yeah.
Ron DeLorme was a tough.
He was basically my mentor. He kind of took me under his wing. He taught me things about fighting. You know, he says you got to stop just jumping in there. You're gonna get one, and you know you got to start planning it out a little bit more. You know?
Don't go like this. Don't go like this.
Yeah, but Ryan DeLorme, he really helped me out a lot, and yeah, we did have some tough guys there, and it was nice. Yeah, it was nice.
So, Van, you spent a little time in Freddie that first year. You had 9 games. Was it 9 games at the beginning of the season, or was it at the end?
It was the first 9 games of the season, and LaForge called me in and says, you know, we got to send you down. It's only going to be for a couple of weeks. And I'm like, hey, you know what? I'll just do what I'm told to do, you know. So I moved out to Fredericton, played the rest of the year out there. And then in the summertime, they called me and said that we're not going to sign you to another contract. You're just going to have to play this one out. So I'm like, yeah, all right. And came in, made the team, played the whole year. And then that's when they started signing me to a little bit more money, a longer contract, and ended up signing like a 3 or 4 year deal there that year.
Yeah, good for you. So you get that deal. You play a couple, 85, 86. You play 57, 86, 87, 15 games. And you go back to Freddie. How tough was that? Like you're playing those 85, 86, you play them 57 games, you feel, okay, I'm here now. Do you ever have a bit of a feeling of security? Because 57 games, you're there, and then the next season you come back to camp, and you play in 15 games, and then you go back to Freddie. What was that difficult?
I was not happy at all, and I think a lot of it, the reason is they felt that maybe I wasn't going to be doing what I was doing the year before, because that first full year, I got into a lot of fights that year against a lot of tough guys, and the head took a lot of hits, and I ended up having a detached retina, so I had to have surgery on that in the summertime. In Vancouver, took care of that. And they says, well, you got to wear a shield. And I'm like, hey, whoa. I'm not wearing a shield. Yeah. And they says, you got to, And so I put it on, and it's almost like, because I had to wear that, they were just like, you know what, we just don't need this guy anymore. And they didn't even give me a good reason why they were sending me down. They just says, we're just going to send you down for a couple weeks. They said, yeah, well, you guys told me that 2 years ago, and I was there for the remainder of the year. And sure enough, they sent me down, and the following year came back, made it again, and I told him, I says, I got to take this shield off. I mean, I'm taking my helmet off every time I get into a fight.
I saw that, like you took it. So that was the reason behind it. The shield was the reason.
Well, I don't want to fight with a shield on, I don't want to do that.
That's honorable, for you're going to fight a guy who's wearing a helmet but no shield. It's honorable to take that off, no question about it. I mean, today they both guys got shield on, so whatever. But because I always wondered when you were taking off, why the hell you take your helmet off? And then I realized. I realize.
I told. At that time, I think Pat Quinn was our general manager. Yeah. And I asked him, I says, Mr. Quinn, I says, listen, what do I have to do to get this thing off? And he says, well, let me talk to some people. I'll get back. And he says, listen, sign this paper saying if something happens to your eye, that you can't come after us. Yeah. I says, fine. I says, I mean, I'm fighting some pretty tough guys. I can't even put a comb through my hair at the end of the night.
Get them lumps.
Yeah. So I signed the paper, and he let me take it off, and it was like perfect. Thank you very much.
Okay, because when I watching you fight Proby, I'm there. What the fuck is he taking his helmet off for? I didn't realize that. Then I said, did he lose it like in the scuffle before? What the hell? And now, Christ, because I'm wondering, I said, what's that all about? Because. Yeah, even when I had one of them CCM helmets, right? The thin ones with no padding inside. The padding was probably as thick as this piece of paper right here, and it was light. But sometimes I never tightened it under my chin. I always had a loose strap. So sometimes it would come off, and the fucking lumps on my head. I'm telling you, right? So I know I certainly can.
It's no fun, that's for sure.
Empathize. With you on that. So Van, you come back up that next year. Now, was Pat the GM or the coach at the time, right? Pat Quinn.
Was the GM. Yeah. GM. The whole time that I was in Vancouver, he never coached me at all. He was always behind the scenes in the office.
So 87, 88. I mean, that 17 points in 64 games. Like for a tough guy, those are decent numbers. So you had your best year basically in the NHL playing. And why was that? Who was the coach? And did he give you more of an opportunity than any other coach had at that point?
Well, one of the things I knew what got me in there. Okay. I mean, I knew I had to fight, but again, I mean, I played hockey my whole life. I love the game, and I wanted to be able to be one of these players that can fight, but also he's not going to be a liability on the ice. So I mean, before practice, I was out early. After practice, I was on the ice for an hour after practice, just working on things because I wanted to become a better player. I wanted to be a player that I could, I mean, I knew I was never going to be a power play guy or a penalty kill guy, but I mean, if I could be a third, fourth line guy playing a regular shift, I mean, and I'm not I'm not a detriment to any, to my team on the ice, and I want to keep playing that way. I want to become a better player, and so they saw that this guy, he ain't Wayne
working your butt
Gretzky,
off.
he can play the game, and they gave me the opportunity. They put me with some guys that had been playing in the NHL for a while, and so I got to play with some.
Who was the
players.
coach, Coxe, that year?
I think it was Bob McCammon, I think, is who was coaching us then.
Yeah, so he certainly, you were his type of guy, that's for sure.
Yeah, he definitely liked me. Yeah, he definitely liked me.
And you had a good season there. And then you end up getting traded that season to Calgary. Was that a shocker for you?
It was a total shock. I mean, I'd never been traded before at
it's
any
the
level.
worst, isn't it? It almost broke me. It almost broke me.
It's funny because we were in Washington, and we're on the we get on the bus from the hotel, headed over to the rink, and all the boys are talking about Vancouver's made a trade. They made a trade. Nobody knows who it is. And me, I'm like, I don't care. Who's going to trade for me, So I go to practice, go back to the hotel. We have our pregame meal, go back to the hotel, or back to the room, go to sleep for a couple of hours, get up, get to the rink, and the coach says, hey, you're not dressing tonight. And I'm like, what do you mean I'm not dressing tonight? I played every game all year. He says, well, no, tonight you're not dressing. So I said, okay. So I went up, sat in the press box, and I'm sitting up there, and this guy says, hey, it's a phone call for you. And I start laughing, sure. Somebody's going to call me at the Washington Stadium. Says, no, seriously, it's Pat Quinn is on the phone. He wants to talk to you. So I go to the phone, and that's when he told me that they traded me to Calgary, and that's how I found out why I wasn't playing that night. So
you found out is right.
Yeah, and then went down after the second period, walked into the room, shook my coach's hands, said to the boys, "See you later. I'm headed to Calgary." And
so you go there. Badger Bob was coaching then, I believe, or was it Terry Crisp?
It was Terry Crisp.
Terry Crisp, sorry.
Yeah,
Badger
Terry
Bob's
Crisp
gone.
was coaching. Yeah.
So you go there 7 games. You played 2 playoff games there. Had a goal. Why the short stint? I didn't hello.
Well, what happened was, Calgary was the only team that I played for in the NHL that took an interest in me as a hockey player. They would watch videos with me after games and after practice and show me things that I was doing right, show me things that I was doing wrong. The coaches would stay after practice and work with me on things to make me a better player. Because the team we had that year was unbelievable. We had
very good team.
Neuendijk, Joey Mullen, Lanny McDonald. There's probably 5 or 6 of those guys are going to be in the Hall of Fame at one time. We had an unbelievable team. It was hard just for me to even get in the lineup, but things worked really good. And at the end of the year, they called me in and said, listen, we'd like to sign you to do a new contract. And I'm like, hey, beautiful, And they say, we're going to keep an eye on you and we'll be talking to you in the summertime. So I signed a new contract and everything was great. I had a new 3-year deal, 1-way contract, making nice money. It was maybe a week before training camp. I'm walking into the practice rink to go skating with the boys, and you know who Mike Bullard is, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Well, he's a bit of a comedian. He's always playing jokes. So he's, we didn't have cell phones back then, so
obviously
he's talking
with the gray hair.
He's talking on the payphone, and he says, "Okay, yeah, all right, yeah, hold on, he's right here." So he puts the phone on top. And he says, they want to talk to you. I says, well, who is it? He says, they want to talk to you. And he walks away. Well, it's Cliff Fletcher, our general manager. And he says, Craig, this is Cliff Fletcher. I just want to let you know that we just traded you and Mike Bullard to St. Louis. And I really regret saying this, but I says, fuck you. Who is this? And he says, Craig, this really is Cliff Fletcher. I says, Mr. Fletcher, I am so sorry.
You thought someone was joking.
You know what Bully's like. He's always playing jokes. I thought he was playing a joke on me. I'm sorry.
Oh, shit.
So he wasn't too happy about what I said. But
He must have understood, though. You thought someone was joking with you. He must have. Being a hockey guy around the game as long as he's been. Yeah.
Yeah, but I asked him, I says, Mr. Fletcher, I don't understand. I says, I thought I did everything you guys wanted. You guys said that everything was going great. And he told me, he says, St. Louis says that the deal will not go through without you. The year before was that when I was playing for Vancouver, is when I fought both Probert and Coxe in the same game.
Oh, yeah.
And everybody's like, so that's when things kind of went sideways for me, is going to St. Louis, because I had finally proven that I could play in the game. Again, I'm not a first or a second line guy, but
yeah, you could have
third or fourth
played
line,
that third, fourth line role easily.
And play a regular shift. And when I went to St. Louis, Sutter, he just turned it all around, and he basically wanted me to start. He wanted me to go back to what I was doing to get into the league.
Sit on the bench.
Didn't want to play me. Just wanted to sit.
When I tap you, you go. Yeah, that sucks.
And so a couple of times, actually, the funny thing is, he wanted me to go after you the very first game. I think you were playing in New York, and you guys came to St. Louis, and
Wow.
New York started you, and then he started me, and he says maybe we should get something going right off the hop, and I'm like, you piece of shit.
Yeah.
I mean, I just spent 4 years making a name for myself, and I finally proved that I can play. And he just wanted me to go back to he didn't care about me playing hockey at all.
So obviously we didn't fight, right?
No, I was going
Thank
up there.
you. Thank you.
Well, I'm not trying to blow smoke up your ass, but
No.
I had a lot of respect for you, and I'm like, you know what? It's first game of the season, and this guy wants me to go out and fucking fight this. I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm not going to do it.
I appreciate that. And good on you for being true to yourself, because you know what? I fucking hate it. Listen, I got it. I always told myself, if a coach ever tells me to go and fight, I'm going to fucking snap. And I thank God to this day that it never happened. The one time someone inferred that to me, I told him where he could go and what he could do. It was in the locker room. And I ended up getting traded from Montreal because of that. Now, I had to stay true to myself. And listen, I'll fucking fight anybody for my teammates. I will do anything like that. But don't you ever fucking tell me to do it. You have the respect to know I know how to do it and when to do it. So for a coach to do that to a player, it's the worst thing. I don't care if you're a Sutter or you're a fucking Jean Perron.
No,
it's so fucking degrading. And
I completely agree. I mean, I played long enough in the NHL and in the minors. I knew when a fight had to happen. I mean, if somebody was getting picked on or somebody was getting taken advantage of, I knew when. And Calgary even said that to me when I went there. They said, "Listen, we're not going to tell you to fight. We know you know when you're supposed to. We're going to make you a better hockey player." And I'm like, "Hey, this is beautiful. I want to stay here." And unfortunately, they traded me to St. Louis, and who wins the Stanley Cup the next year? Calgary.
Fuckers. I know. In Montreal, mind you, while I'm in fucking New York, and I shouldn't have been. And they fired that fuck 2 months after I got traded. 3 months after I got traded, they ended up letting that guy go. So I get it, and I would have I could have never done that. If I never had the opportunity to play, and that's the beauty about my situation in Montreal, and that's why I always talk so highly of Montreal, and I feel indebted to the organization, because when I came in and they saw me that first fight, they signed me right away. Boom, we want to sign him. But, they worked with me to become a better player. They wanted me to be a better player. They wanted me to be able to go on the ice and play the game. And they work with me to do that. Now, I say that because, listen, down in the American League that first year with Bert Templeton always had tough teams in the O, and he was remember the punch-up in Pistony, the Canadian team had that fight? against the Russians. Bert was the coach, and he wanted that stuff all the time. So when I first came, I was a little naive to all that. But when I got to Montreal, man, Claude Ruel, that coach, he worked with me every day on fundamentals, pass and shoot and skate, all these things. He worked with me every day. He said, and he would call me Yankee Boy. He said, Yankee Boy, we got to work every day. We got to get you to be the player. You got to play the game. And he would drill it into my head. And I was fortunate. I ended up playing with 2 Hall of Fame guys in Carbonneau and Gainey. Now, I could have never done that job and just sat on the bench. And I really realized that in my last year, when that started happening to me. I was fucking miserable. And you're dealing with the end of your career, but you're also dealing with not playing. And I'm there. God, it was hard for me to really understand it at the time. I didn't want to understand it because I was losing that little half step that we always talk about, that dreaded half step.
Yep.
And, I remember when it happened to me, I fought the big kid in Hartford. Jim McKenzie. Okay.
Oh yeah, that was tough.
I fought Big Jimmy, and I hung in there with him. But I'm 34 years old at the time, and then the next night, the Grim Reaper comes to town, and I'm fighting the Grim Reaper. And I remember I'm in the penalty box, 2 fucking back-to-back nights. I'm in the box, and I'm going, holy fuck, it's getting tougher, Knuckles. And all these young kids, they're doing the same thing I did when I come in. I'm gonna fight O'Reilly. I'm going to fight Stan Jonathan. I'm going to fight this one and that one. People are going to recognize that I can go, and I'm not going to back down. And now it's happening to me. And boy, that's fucking humbling experience.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, that sucks, right? Goddamn Calgary goes and wins the cup. You get traded to St. Louis. They win it the next year. You spend a little time Peoria. Then you go back to Van. Who brings you back to Van?
I came back on, what was it? St. Louis didn't protect me after the second training camp, so Chicago grabbed me on waivers, and then Chicago doesn't protect me, and then all of a sudden I get a phone call from Chicago saying, you're headed back to Vancouver. I'm like, okay. I had no problem with that. I loved Vancouver.
You had to be like over the moon with that, right?
Yeah, I was pretty happy about it, and they had a ticket for me, and went back to Vancouver. But the problem is that, and I hate for this to sound like a cop-out, but the damage had been done in St. Louis, and I started, he would tell me, hey, go get this guy. Yeah, okay. So I'd go out and I would just play. So him and me did not get along at all.
Who was that?
It was Brian Sutter.
Oh, he was in Vancouver too?
No. He was the St. Louis coach.
St. Louis coach, yeah.
But I completely agree with you.
Yeah, I don't. No respect for those guys, none at all.
I had all the respect for him as a player, but I didn't have any respect for him as a coach. But But it was Bob McCammon was still in Vancouver when I got back, and in St. Louis, I kind of, it's not like I'd never been around the bottle, but I kind of started hitting it a little too hard, and that hurt me a lot later on, especially when I went to San Jose. They called me and says, well, we picked you up in the expansion draft, but we hear you got alcohol. I says, no, don't worry. I'm good. I know this is my last chance at the NHL. And I don't know what happened there. I went in, I played.
You scored the first goal in the history of the Sharks, right?
I had 2 goals in the first 5 games. I think I only played like 10 games there. When they sent me down, and again, they told me, oh, you're just going down for 2 weeks. I says, bullshit. I've been playing long enough, I know. Why are you guys doing this? I says, I'm top 10 on the team in points. I mean, I'm also top 10 in plus minus, and we haven't won a game yet. And I'm staying out of trouble off the ice. I'm fighting on the ice. I'm doing everything that you guys want me to do, and I'm staying out of trouble. And that's when Link Gates was there too. So me and Link,
the missing link.
together. And we were on the road. We lost a game to it was New Jersey. They hammered us like 9-1, something like that. And so the next morning, I get a phone call to come to the coach. He says, "We're sending you down for 2 weeks." And I says, "Bullshit. You guys send me down. I know I'm done. You give me the truth." "Oh, no. We're just having a look at a couple of guys." And that's the last time they ever talked to me. You know, the following year, they called me and said, "We know you got another year on your contract, but we're not going to have you back to camp." And well, just keep sending me my paychecks, you know.
Yeah.
So
Keep them coming, baby.
Yeah, I think I kind of got blackballed a little bit because, you know, maybe drinking a little bit too much and partying a little bit too much, and you know, I can't blame it all on that. I'm sure a lot of it had to do with immaturity. Was, you know, I mean, I went from being a normal guy to all of a sudden playing in the National Hockey League, making, you know, $150,000, which is one hell of a lot of money back in the 80s. And I didn't ever embrace, you know what, you just got to go out there and just do it. But I got sick of just fighting. I wanted to continue to keep playing.
I don't blame you.
You know,
because you go to Kansas City, you end up with 70 goals, 21 assists, 38 points in 51 games. Hello. You never, honestly, and I'll say it, like you just didn't get from me, looking from the outside in, you didn't get the opportunity that a lot of guys get. And yeah, you played in the league and you made the NHL, but you didn't get an opportunity to play like you wanted to. And that sucks because you showed you could. And that's the bummer of it. But you still got to play in the NHL. And I'm sure you're proud of that career and all that.
I mean, that's the best part of my, you know, other than, you know, marrying my wife, that's, you know, always going to be one of the highlights of my entire life. You know, I mean, still to this day, I mean, I'm 60 years old. I've been running rinks now in Michigan for 20 years. And it's nice that I'm able to give back what I've done my entire life. You know, I'm very fortunate that way, you know.
Well, yeah, we'll talk. I want to talk a couple things. You know, obviously you had two classic bouts with Bob Probert, and I got to know Proby after my career, and we became really good friends. I loved him. He's like just a big kid, a little big baby, and tough as nails. But how are those first bouts with you? Again, I remember going in the Garden. I fought Jonathan O'Reilly.
That's a tough night.
Then I fought Secord O'Reilly. Jonathan Kluzak, this one, Brian Curran, one after another. Craziness. But you go into Detroit and you take on, without a doubt, two of the toughest guys ever. And Joe Coxe, that bout, man, he missed you with a fucking bomb. Well, and you come across and fucking down he went. Boy, what a punch.
Right here in Joe Louis Arena. And Coxe knocks Joey down with that right hand.
I had fought him in the minors. Me and him broke into pro hockey at the same time.
Yeah.
And I had fought him. He was playing for Adirondack when I was in Freddie, and me and him got into a fight. And at the end of the fight, I'm sitting in the penalty box, and they bring me my helmet. And my helmet's in two pieces, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, this guy hits pretty goddamn hard.
Thank God you didn't have the fucking visor on then.
Yeah, no kidding.
Right.
No kidding. So I you know, and that was like 3 years before me and him had that bout in Detroit. So I knew, hey, listen, I can't stand back and trade punches with this guy. He hits way too hard. He ends people's careers. So I said, Coxe, you got to make sure each one counts. and Joey tried to give me the, oh, I'm a lefty kind of thing. And
Yeah.
You don't even know how to throw a lefty.
No left. No, that's a fucking wet noodle left.
So I says,
Right?
I'm not changing. I'm going with you righty to righty. And I knew, I says, I've got to just make sure every punch counts, because if you don't put him down, he's going to knock you out. So
Eventually.
luckily, just got a good lucky punch in, got him in the chin, and down he went. He wasn't too happy about that either.
Yeah, I'm sure he wasn't. And so then you fight the big man.
Oh no, Proby was first, and Coxe was second.
Okay, he was second. Well, still, you take them both, and you had what, the two of you throwing like you did. You hit him some good punches. Honestly, Proby, I never really saw him get hit like that as much in a fight as your fight, honestly. Like, I think that's the most he ever got hit in a fight. He got hit before, but you threw some bombs. Yeah, he can, huh?
He really could take a punch.
Look at the two of them with the long reach, and they are just hammering each other. My goodness. One of the few times you've seen Bobby Probert fight at Joe Louis Arena. Look at these two trading punches. Oh, man. I believe Probert's cut.
Yeah, Coxe has hit him a couple of times, but I'll tell you, I can't believe Coxe is still kicking.
Wow. Man, oh, man.
You know, one of the things that nobody ever asked me about that game is they said,
You scored the winning goal.
I did, yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Nobody
I
ever
fucking
asked,
know.
Did you score it all? I says,
Well,
yeah,
you didn't let me get there. You didn't let me get there, you bastard. I knew you scored the winning goal. How's that? Huh? I didn't do my homework, right?
Oh. I'll tell you, can you imagine if I stayed in Detroit and me and Probert and Coxe all played on the same line?
Oh, God. It's like, here, you can have the puck. Go ahead, guys. Do what you want with it. Get into the action with Fight Club, Raw Knuckles' new exclusive Patreon. From ad-free episodes to uncensored content and discounts on merch, there's something for every hockey fan. Join the Fight Club today. So, today, looking back your career and you leave the game, and it's tough. Some guys have a difficult time transitioning out. You said it, the camaraderie, the boys, the room, all that. You miss that. And people say you missed the game. Not so much. I don't miss the fucking getting punched in the face, okay?
I don't miss that at all.
You miss that camaraderie and all that. Now, since you retired, you got into coaching, doing some coaching and stuff. And recently you were coaching in Sheboygan, right? High school hockey?
I coached the high school team for 12 years, yeah.
And you stepped down, what, a year ago? A little over a year ago, was it?
Yeah, last year was the first year that I didn't coach over there. Yeah,
why did you step down? Because it seemed like you really enjoyed it. And what are you doing now after you left?
I did enjoy it. One of the reasons that I stepped down was because I hate to put it on society or anything, but kids
put it anywhere you want.
There's just too many kids that they feel they're entitled. They don't want to work to become a better player, and they don't want to follow the rules that the rest of the team does. And while my mom and dad tell me I'm the greatest player out there, so I don't need to listen to you. And I'm like, you know what? It just got to be the point where I felt like I wasn't getting through to my players the way I wanted to. And I tried to explain to them, I said, listen, I don't expect you guys to love the game the way I do. Okay, that's not what I'm asking you. But if you're going to play at a level that we're playing at, then I need a commitment. I mean, this isn't just a house league team that you're just having fun with. This is a varsity hockey, and I mean, I expect you guys to take it seriously. And the last couple of years that I was coaching, I could tell I wasn't getting through to the kids. And I had two assistant coaches that both of them played for me as seniors the very first year I was in Sheboygan. And I said, you know what, boys? I says, it's time for me to step away, and it's time for you guys to take care of it,
Yeah.
I mean, they were really happy for it, for that. They wanted that opportunity. And I said, hey, it's all yours, guys. You guys take it. If you want any help, any advice, whatever. I mean, I still run the rink where you guys play, so I'm here all the time. And it's made me feel a lot better. I sleep a lot better, I'll tell you that.
Yeah. It's funny you say that, because I had a coach in high school, Bill Hansen. His first year as assistant coach, I was a junior. And I didn't play freshman team. I sat in the bench the whole time, never played. Sophomore, I played JV. Junior year, I made the team. There was a new coach, Mr. O'Brien, and Bill Hansen was the assistant. Well, I played more that year. Then Bill took over. O'Brien left after 1 year. He didn't want to coach. He had a sporting goods store. He was too much time with the coaching, so he gave it to Billy. Billy took over. I played my senior year. I played like all the time. I finally got that opportunity. Billy Hansen, he built a great program at Catholic Memorial, my coach. And they were national champions, I don't know how many years in the U.S. as high school team. They were unbelievable. And Coach Hansen, he brought a culture there that was incredible, that winning culture. But it was Catholic Memorial, and they changed the logo to the C and the M, kind of like the Habs logo.
Right.
And they were that. Their colors were red and silver and red. But he got the program to the point where at the beginning of the season, he'd have a meeting with all the potential players and their parents. And he would tell the parents, listen, you're entrusting your children with me, these young men, and I'm going to coach them this year. I am not going to talk to any fucking parents during the season. Don't come
Smart
to me.
move.
Yeah, he said, don't come to me and say, oh, my kid isn't playing. No, I am the coach. I'm making the decisions. I'm not dealing with any of you. That's why I'm having you here tonight. I'm laying it down. Don't come to me. And trust, if you don't want to entrust me with your child, then don't go out for the hockey team. I don't want that kid. If you just leave him with me, let me be the coach. I'm going to coach your kid. I know the game of hockey, and I know how to deal with young men. Now, he did that for, I don't know, 35 years. He got let go probably about 10 years ago now. And he won right up until the day he left. And the program has changed somewhat, but they brought in a new headmaster. And when they saw what he was doing and how he was, well, he had the reputation. This new headmaster was like, no, we have to communicate with parents and blah, blah, blah. And off
Somebody
Billy
who's
went.
never coached before.
Yeah, he rode off into the sunset. So I certainly, you can get all that part of it. It's very, and hearing you say about kids being entitled, it's so true. Like, man, you got to fucking earn it. And today you baby fucking kids so much. Yeah. It's like, oh, and poor Johnny, and oh, fuck. It's like, and you said something earlier. You got to go back to the payphone days, baby. Right? Right? Nothing like a good old fucking payphone.
Yeah, I tell you, you take that tablet, those computers, and those phones away from them. Get them outside, start playing some sports, do something, get active, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
That's another thing. I look at today, the fucking tablets on the bench. I'd smash one a game anyway, right? Get back to the bench, fucking catch your breath, watch the fucking game, get ready for your next shift. Fucking, if you want to look at something, come in the room between periods. I'll fucking show you. Boom, let's sit down, we'll talk. But on the bench, it's like, oh, that fucking drive me crazy. You know, the game today, when you look at it, and fighters obviously being phased out, there are still, you're going to have the teams that are going to have a guy here and there. We've seen Rempe come in this year and got, I give him all the credit in the world for trying to make a name for himself, and he has. But boy, he's taken some fucking punches.
Yes,
he has taken some big time punches, right?
Yeah.
And
but he's young, you know.
Yeah,
I mean, he's young. He's sometimes you got to learn the hard way, you know.
Yeah. Oh boy, he fucking fought that kid in Columbus. Holy shit, did he get hit?
Yeah.
But when you look at the game today, the talent, I get all that. The talent's unbelievable. Fucking the Michigan bullshit. I hate that. But what do you think of today's NHL game?
The speed is just, I mean, it's just unbelievable. I mean, these guys that are, 6'4", 6'5", and they're skating around like a guy that's 5 feet tall. You know, I mean, I think that granted, the game definitely has evolved, and it's the one thing that I enjoy about it, or that I'm happy about, is these guys are so good and so talented that now the rest of the world is seeing, hey, you know what? Hockey is a pretty damn good sport to watch, you know? And I think because of the skill that they have and how fast the game is and how competitive it is, I think some of the rules or some of the penalties they call, I think, is bullshit, but it is what it is. But I mean, I sometimes, you look back when we played and you watch one of our games and you watch one from right now, and we look like we're going in slow motion.
Yeah. Right. I remember how fucking fast it was out there, right? Like, hello.
I think the game is amazing. I'm glad that these players are getting paid the kind of money that they're getting paid. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people say, well, aren't you pissed off about that? I says, why would I be pissed off about that? Somebody paid me to play hockey. I don't care how much. I mean, I'm going to be happy. That's the way it was in my day. You know, I mean, we didn't play for the money. We played because we loved the game. And so I'm happy the way it's going. I love watching the playoffs. I mean,
playoff hockey is like,
it's just
there's nothing on earth.
I mean, it's just unbelievable. I don't get to see too much during the wintertime, because I'm at the rink a lot. But once playoffs come, man, I try not to miss any games. That's just such good hockey to watch.
Looking back at your career, what do you think? If you could pick the best year of hockey you had, because listen, I always say I'm so blessed and fortunate and grateful that I had an opportunity to win the Stanley Cup and did, with a team that you're always bound to those guys forever, those experiences. And I've had so many guys on here, guys that have won it and guys who haven't. And I honestly, I wish everybody could win a cup. I do. Because I know how difficult it is. And that's the thing. People, it is the most fucking difficult trophy to win in sports. But that being said,
I completely agree.
Your favorite year of hockey out of those years, like you loved it.
It would have been the year that I was traded to Calgary, even though nobody wants to get traded. But it's a part of our careers. And before I got traded, things were going really good for me in Vancouver. I mean, I was getting the opportunity to play a lot. Again, the fighting just came with it. It was no big deal. And then going to Calgary, it just completely amped up everything. The interest that they took in everybody that played on that team. other teams that I played for, it's like St. Louis, San Jose, even sometimes when I was in Vancouver. It was like, here, you go stand over there while the rest of us go out and practice, And it wasn't like that in Calgary. And, everybody, they took an interest with everybody. But that year, I think I got like maybe 25 points that year between the two teams. And it was a great year. It was just a really, really good year for me. And I love the game even more, the way things are going. And unfortunately,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how much I can talk about why the trade was made. I mean, it had nothing to do with me. It had to do with somebody in St. Louis.
Yeah.
I don't want to get anybody in trouble. So, unfortunately.
Ron Caron was there at the time, right?
Oh, man.
Ronnie. Hey,
guy.
Craig Coxe. Hey, come over here. I want to talk to you. This
You
is
know
it.
what?
That's correct. That's correct, he say. That's
He
correct.
was one weird dude. He really was. We get back from a road trip, and
Ronnie.
the assistant coach is standing at the end of the walkway when we're getting off the plane, and Sutter it was like 5 or 6 of us that didn't play a whole lot on the road trip. He made us go to the rink and get bagged for an hour.
Oh,
right?
you prick.
We just get back from a 10-day road trip, I mean, okay,
prick.
so we didn't play a lot. So now you're going to bag us for an hour? So we get done. We're in the dressing room. We're getting undressed, getting ready to take a shower. And Ron Caron comes in with this book. And he's starting to do his, his trivia.
Trivia. That's it. Yeah. The Red Sox.
And I'm sitting there and I'm like, this is bullshit. And I says, Mr. Caron? And he says, yeah. I says, I have a trivia question for you. Oh, he closes his book. He goes, oh, this should be good. All right, yeah. And he says, okay, what is it? I says, how far is the Bat Cave from Gotham City?
You stumped him for sure.
He was so pissed off. Oh, I can't be, you're going to ask me something. And he walks out. And as soon as he walks out, the boys are, hey, attaboy, Coxe.
Thanks, Coxe. The prof, he wanted, who won the pennant back in 1967? That's correct. Oh, the prof, he used to have that all the time. He'd come in and he started talking to me, Boston kid, hey, Boston kid, the Red Sox. I love the Red Sox. Oh, Bronco, the best.
Yeah.
It's funny. I got traded to St. Louis, and I didn't go. I asked Serge when he traded me. He called me. He said, listen, big boy, I traded you, blah, blah. I said, you're kidding me. He said, where am I going? He said, St. Louis. I said, I ain't going to St. Louis. What do you mean I traded you? I said, come on, Serge. I don't want to go to St. Louis. Why? I said, I just don't want to go to St. Louis, okay? I want to be close to the East, my family. He said, where you want to go? I said, Boston. He said, no, I ain't doing Boston. I can't do Boston. I said, oh, how about New York? Because I know Phil was interested in me, Esposito at the time. And Serge did that. He called Prof back and said, listen, you don't want to go to St. Louis. He doesn't want to go there, so we're going to call the trade off. That's okay. And he did. He did me that favor. I went to New York. So pretty cool of him. But I think the prof was mad at me because he knew me from my Montreal days, and it's like, he didn't want to come to St. Louis. I didn't want to hear the fucking trivia. No. Like you. Anyway. Oh, geez. We could go all day here, for Christ's sake. But listen, it really, I have a lot of guys. I've done a lot of these podcasts. It's been awesome. It's funny. My wife came in the room and she looked at me and she said, because she listens to all of them, she said, I love him. So there you go. You made an impression today. And I'm sure you're going to make an impression on a lot of people who listen to this, because you're certainly one of the good guys who played the game. I never met you. I never fought you. I knew of you. I certainly played against you. Maybe that one time. I don't know if I even played against you in Van. Maybe St. Louis. But
I think St. Louis when you were in New York. I think that's the only. I think that might have been the only time you and me ever played against each other.
And thank God, fucking Sutter told you to go fight me, and you didn't.
Hey Knuckles, I really appreciate you reaching out to me, man. Thank you very much. I mean, I've had guys from the past call me, hey, we want to do a podcast, and say, yeah, just give me a call, I'll do it. I never get the phone call back. You're the only one who's ever followed up, and I really do appreciate it. I really do.
Well,
I mean, I had nothing but respect playing against you. I think you had an outstanding career, and anybody that ever asked me, do you know him? I says, no, I don't know him, but I know who he is. And I says he wasn't just a good hockey player. The guy was fucking tough, and he wasn't a big boy, but he'd go anybody, And I says, and I respect that. I really do respect that. I mean,
I appreciate it.
Player. I mean, I like that.
I appreciate that. And listen, I have nothing but respect for guys who did our job, and I love the game of hockey like you do. And like we talked about, Stanley Cup playoffs is nothing like it. The best game on earth. It's awesome, and it's great. We both had an opportunity to do it at the highest level. There's no question, regardless of how we got there. We were there. I say it all the time. I talk to guys. Some guys have played. You played 236 games in the
Something
NHL.
Like that,
yeah. I played 688. I played 111 playoff games. I missed. The last 5 years, I missed 200 games. I broke my arm twice. I tore my knee ligament. I had the hockey hernia. I broke my ankle. Fuck, it was a nightmare. So I might have been close to like 950 games if I stayed healthy. Right. So, but I always, guys who I have on, they'll say, I only played 10 games. Or I only played. You played at the highest level. Yeah. You reached that level. And some guys might look at it and say, but I didn't stay as long as I maybe wanted. But you fucking got there. And that's the thing. People don't realize how difficult it is to get there. Never mind stay there, just to get there. So no matter how you get there, boom. And you did by fighting, and you had an opportunity to show what you could do too. So God bless you. You're a hell of a guy. I've heard, here and there people, hey, Coxe, great guy, blah, blah. But, everybody's, you're a great guy, this guy and that guy, until you meet them and you get to know them a little bit. And even though it's just a short time today, you are a good man. And my wife loves you. And
tell her I said hello.
And that's a big one right there.